Hello there and welcome to the Daily Discussion. Today, let's discuss mages, the quintessential casters of, well, just about every piece of fantasy ever. Ever since Dungeons & Dragons first got people enthralled with it, the mage, or wizard, or sorcerer, has been one of the three big classes, those being warrior, rogue, and mage. These days, an RPG needs a pretty big reason to exclude a caster, and the mage in Warcraft is the epitome of magical power. So, how does this translate to class fantasy in-game? Not very well, as it turns out. Doing some research reveals that mages, pre-Cataclysm, had very few class quests, and those they did have were very similar to the ones they have today, quests to obtain pieces of gear. To be fair, these items were very mage-centric. A robe, a wand, an orb, a staff, a pendant, and a couple of quests to learn some minor spells such as Conjure Water and Polymorph Pig. These quests don't seem hugely exciting, but there is one particular mage-only quest that I find incredibly interesting. During Wrath of the Lich King, as a mage adventured through Northrend, they got a quest upon reaching a certain level. I think it's 74 or 75. This was when players were given a quest to venture to Dalaran, the floating capital city for the expansion. But mages were given a different quest. They were given a quest to learn how to teleport there. Now, mages, of course, are known for their teleportation spells. It's one of the most popular things about them. It's like, mages can teleport. They can put portals down. It's a bit of a shame that these days portals are very commonplace. And I think that's a bit of a shame because that definitely detracts from the kind of uniqueness of the mage, that there's just portals everywhere. But regardless, the quest in question asked the mage to attune themselves to the ley lines of Northrend by using an attunement crystal on a blue dragonflight surge needle. Then, after they did that, they were taught how to teleport to Dalaran. That's really actually cool in my opinion. This inspired me whilst thinking of the master level, 100 or above, class fantasy for mages. But before that, let's briefly return to the initiate level, the lower level stuff, first. So as the mage levels up, I'd love to see a teleport spell for their class order hall. That's kind of a no-brainer, isn't it? Rather than an item to teleport there, why don't you give mages a teleportation spell instead? So as the mage levels up, I'd like to see them tasked with solving puzzles with their spells, and using those spells for the benefit of others. So let's say an initiate level player is in their class order hall, and they're given a daily or a weekly quest to help keep the hall running, basically. They could wander about the place and help out master mages and mage trainers by doing certain things. For instance, one mage trainer might be low on mana and require the initiate to conjure a mana crystal for them. Another might be helping supply refugees whose homes have been destroyed by demons, and the initiate can help by conjuring food to send to them. Another example may involve master level players. I mentioned in previous discussions an idea that had master level players doing something to demonstrate their class or spec, and having initiate players seeing them, or NPC copies of them, in the order hall, doing things like hitting training dummies, summoning demons, communing with the elements, things like that. So for an initiate quest, why not have them participate in an experiment with a master level player? During the introductory quest chain for Warlords of Draenor, we saw Khadgar combine fire, frost, and arcane energy together to annihilate a Blackrock dam. So why not have players attempt to replicate this in a more controllable form? You could have the master level player providing one of the types, depending on their spec, so fire, frost, or arcane, and they'd get a quest that asks them to cast a pyroblast, or arcane missiles, or ice lance at a ritual orb. And then have a similar quest for initiates. They would see either another initiate or an NPC, and the copy of the master player. They would each provide one type of magic, and the results could be explosive, or maybe stable, or it could just be funny and polymorph everyone as the magic was released, just something like that. So those were a couple of ideas for initiate level players, but what about masters? Well, I mentioned earlier my love for the quest that teaches mages how to teleport to Dalaran, and I realised back then in Wrath of the Lich King, the players were adventurers turning slowly into heroes. Since then, we've become those heroes, soldiers, and now commanders, and in Legion we're going to be wielding the most powerful weapons on Azeroth, becoming paragons of our class. The mages taught to teleport to Dalaran are now probably more skilled than most mages living in it, and since it'll be the capital city for the expansion, I'd love to see a daily quest where the Master Mage is tasked with maintaining the spells that keep Dalaran afloat. They could go to some kind of arcane ward inside the city, like a room with like a big pillar of arcane energy, and they would have to cast a certain sequence of spells at it to charge it without destroying the entire city. Even better, why not have this daily or weekly quest include a sequence where demonic infiltrators sabotage the spells keeping Dalaran afloat, and you're the only one capable of fixing it in time? You could even go even further and have a cutscene of Dalaran starting to fall. Then it could cut to the mage casting their spell to fix it. Then you can cut back to the city stabilizing and returning to its spot. It would have to be phased, obviously, but that would provide some real class fantasy, I think. Other than that, I'd like to see mages getting quests to teleport to the major cities and deal with leyline disturbances there. Demonic magic is just as corrupting as demons themselves, so no doubt the ley lines, the magical strands that permeate the world, are in peril. The Master Mage could be tasked with repairing ley lines in a few of the major cities, which would get them wandering through older cities to find and repair these magical gaps, so to speak. Just like with the Dalaran idea, the mage would have to use certain spells on the frayed ley lines in order to fix them, and if they got it wrong, an enemy, like an arcane aberration of some kind, could appear and attack them. Mages are the masters of magic, and I'd love to see quests asking them to keep the magic of the world going, to have them be the ones keeping Dalaran afloat, to be the ones experimenting with new magic types and combining them to create interesting results. That's kind of what a mage does, right? You're the caster. Let's see some interesting casting. Those are just a few of my ideas. Let me know what you think, and what ideas you'd like to see implemented for mages in the future. Today's piece of music will be from Karazhan. This is the decrepit tower that once belonged to the Master Mage and Guardian, Medivh, and his apprentice, Khadgar. Hopefully, the class order hall will be here, and if it is, I hope to hear cues from these themes. This is the famous opera hall music that plays in the theatre area of Karazhan, and following that will be a piece from the library. These pieces of music easily paint the picture of an old, magical tower full of wonders and horrors alike. Thank you very much for watching, and I wish you the best of luck in the world of Warcraft.